here this evening. So I'm Martin Roberts. I present Homes in the Tunnel. I now patron of the Rhondda Tunnel Society. About 2 years ago, my son liked to mountain biking, and we went to buy Park Wales. I thought, this is fun. And I thought it'd be great to have a house in Wales, but I've visited numerous times doing the show. Also, it was a lovely place. And I ended up buying the old farmhouse in the Rhondda Valley in a place called Tynewid, which is just north of Treorchy. And came across almost by chance the Rhondda Tunnel Society and this project, literally about a mile away from Treorchy, where my farmhouse is. This incredible hidden tunnel that was closed in the 1960s, and I couldn't leave really what it was all about. So I got in contact with the Rhondda Tunnel Society and tried to find a little bit more about what had been going on. And for 10 years, a group of people, probably not like yourselves, rail enthusiasts, people who used to work in some cases for the railways, but also in the mining industry, mining engineers, all enthusiasts have been working very tirelessly to try and raise awareness to reopen the tunnel, and coming across 1,000 million hurdles and problems and lack of impetus from people who can make the right decisions. And so I kind of came along probably at a point when they were running out of steam. And what I said I could do to try and help was just raise awareness. And I'm not technical, so I don't profess to know anything as much as you in this room know about the engineering or the history or any of that kind of stuff. Or indeed the members of the society. What I've tried to do is say, how can we add on to the reasons for reopening this tunnel? More than just an architectural wonder, more than just a piece of railway history, but to make it relevant to 2024 and relevant to the people who might give us the money to do it. And worthy though it is in its own right to open it as an architectural wonder, it ain't going to get the money. So what I've been doing very much is trying to get the right people talking and the right people to recognise the importance of this tunnel in so many ways. So I know that you're all you've got a huge enthusiasm in the railway side of it. But if you'll bear with me tonight, I'm not only going to talk about that, but I feel like you probably know more than I do about the history of the tunnel, and it's amazing to that point of view. But my presentation that I'd like to give you sort of expands a bit into what this could mean for the Rhondda Valley, the northern Rhondda Valley, which, as you know, has been pretty much economically devastated, but also the region in terms of potential tourism. And Wales, because if we get this reopened, it is for half the year the longest cycling and walking tunnel in the world, not in Europe, not in the UK, but the world. So for half the year, it's the longest walking and cycling tunnel in the world. That is in the Rhondda Valley. That is 45 minutes drive from here. And I think for Wales, I think it's a statement as well. And I can't believe why it hasn't been open yet, but it hasn't. And despite Vaughan Gething standing up in the Senate last week or the week before, and now knowing about it, it's still not. People probably knew about it before, but we still haven't got what we need to make it actually happen. So I'm going to outline a little bit about what we do need to make it happen. And from your point of view, anything you can do to help me and the Rhondda Tunnel Society get this project to fruition would be really helpful. And I don't expect you to be able to help me necessarily find finance to do it, although you may know charitable trusts, you may know people who are enthusiasts who might be able to help. But I think one of the most valuable things you would have perhaps is knowledge, history, anecdotes, any of that kind of stuff, because as well as being this vital modern link between the Avon and Rhondda valleys, we do want to reflect and very much highlight its history. And so there will be a visitor centre with a museum, and we hope to get that populated with all sorts of things relating to the mining in the area, which obviously was the reason for the tunnel being built, and also just the history of the railway, how it came to be built, who built it, the history of that, and then the operation of it. Bearing in mind it was used for passengers, and it was used for taking steam coal, black gold from the Rhondda Valley, that generally got the best steam coal in the world, down to Port Talbot and out to the rest of the world, where it was used pretty much to power the Industrial Revolution. And then, of course, it closing down in the 1960s. So this presentation, as I said, isn't just a historical talk. I'm not a tunnel or a railway historian, but what I am is somebody who's trying to enable this to be a reality in 2024, when there's so many projects out there crying out for support and financial support. So if you just want to click on this, I am delighted to say that I am, okay, I'm not going to get very far if you can't actually move the presentation. There we go.
Don't with me. Sorry, it's right. Let me go back to it.
What's the name? Go back a different screen. Right.
Is it not?
There we go. So yeah, so I'm a literature teacher, and I'm delighted to say I'm patron of the Society. I'm very proud to be so. We're going to the next slide. This is sort of what I'm getting at, what I've just said to you there. We are trying to create a sustainable future from an industrial past. The valley's obviously, I don't need to tell you, I'm preaching to the converted here, struggling even in this day and age. As filming Homes and the Hammer, it always struck me that it was quite profound when you headed north into the valleys, the difference in the quality of or the financial life compared to saying here. You don't have to go too far before it drops off quite dramatically. And I don't know if you're aware of the most frightening fact, which is if you go from here to the northern Rhondda, the life expectancy drops by 10 years. I mean, that's just think about that for a minute. This is 2024, and you 10 years of your life if you live in the northern Rhondda. Probably because of the economic situation there. So this project isn't just about creating and reopening this tunnel. It's about rejuvenating the region, which needs our help so badly. And that is what I'm trying to get over to the politicians. That is what I'm trying to get over to the people of the council, and that's what I'm trying to get over to everybody who might help us with what we're trying to do. But there's lots of buzzwords that you have to use at the moment. Sustainability, you can pin the reason to help on the most obscure things. I dare say if there was some rare breed of bat that flew through the tunnel, and that by opening it, the bat could fly through the tunnel, we would get every single penny we needed. We don't have a rare species of bat which wants to travel through the tunnel, so we have to think about other things. And that one of the big things for me is tourism. The Northern Valleys, in case you're not aware, has got a lot of good things going on in terms of tourism. Lots of main infrastructure things going in. The Zip will be built by Port Wales. You might have read about Merthyr Tydfil, the Radical West development, which is going to be the home of the British ski team, which is amazing. So they're building one of Europe's largest indoor ski slopes there. And in the Avon Valley, which is significant, there's a thing called Wild Fox, which is going to be like a centre parks development, which is incredible. So one of the things we're talking about is using the tunnel as an active travel route because wild fox are going to need 6,000 people working there, and 6,000 people are going to come up either from Swansea, Port Talbot, or they're going to come off round the valley, over the top hill, over blah, 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 45 minutes to get to that side from the Merthyr Tydfil stroke blind come stroke Treorchy side. And if you could offer them a way that they could cycle there in 15 minutes rather than driving there in 45 minutes, I think you can see the benefits. We'll go on to the next slide. But let's talk about the tunnel itself. It is simply incredible. It was closed in 1968, and effectively it linked the Rhondda and the Avon valleys. 2 miles of tunnel built in the late 1800s by allegedly one of the engineers who was a protege of Brunel. And it's quite an interesting tunnel geographically, if you're not aware, because it's underneath a very, very tall mountain. It significantly, I can't remember the height of it, it's 1,000 feet or whatever it might be. So again, please forgive me, I'm not an expert in this, I'm not a mining engineer or a tunnel engineer, but I understand the way you would normally build a 2 mile long tunnel is you drill shafts and then you'd maybe link those shafts together. Because of the problems of it being 1,000 foot to dig a shaft, there was only one shaft that they actually built. So they had to build it using, I don't know what, but basically they had to literally start digging both ends and meet in the middle and hope that they got it right. This is the 1800s, right? No GPS, no lasers, nothing. But guess what? When they came to join, they were absolutely bang on in terms of left to right, and they were half an inch out in terms of top to bottom. So, you know, they knew what they were doing. And when you go down there, Carl Gilmore is with me, has told me, who visited the tunnel a few months ago, that actually the condition is better than some of the tunnels which are currently in use, like the tunnels that the trains are travelling through, which is incredible. It is extraordinary. It's very wet at one end, but once you get 100 yards in, it's not wet anymore. The brickwork is pretty much intact. There's a few places where they've strengthened it, but that's not necessarily necessary. And quite interesting in terms of the design. In order actually to cut costs, they built a load of arches. So these are alcoves, which are dotted along the length of the tunnel. And originally it was done to save money, but actually now these provide a potential space for all sorts of exhibitions and things. Both ends had a large cutting, and basically what they did in the 1960s, early 1970s, was they filled in both ends. So in terms of reopening it, it's not a hugely complicated job, because literally you just have 10,000 tons of spoil, which was dumped in at both ends, and you just got to dig it out. So you know you're not boring through rock, you know you are boring through basically loose materials. And we've had those materials checked out, and we know they're not contaminated, which is really good. The society has also managed to buy a plot of land at the Blind Combe end, which we are in the process of planning to turn it into a country park where there would be the visitor centre for the tunnel. But one of the big things which you would appreciate if you're into the construction world is that also provides a place for us to put all the spoils. There are 10,000 tonnes that got to go somewhere. So we are able to take those 10,000 tonnes and distribute it over this 13 acres of land that we now own at one of the portals. The ownership of the tunnel is, you could say, a bit of a bone of contention. It's currently owned by the Secretary of State for Transport, the Department for Transport and Natural Highways. And effectively it's owned by the UK government. They are willing to give it to the Welsh government. But the Welsh government is concerned about taking it on because of the liability, because there was only a small dowry attached to the ownership of the tunnel. And you'll know this world we live in, it's all about risk. It's all about not wanting to take on risk if you might be liable for it. So we are in discussions with organisations who might be able to take on ownership of the tunnel. And if they come on board, then we take away that issue which the Welsh government currently have, where if they take on the tunnel, they also take on the perceived liability which they're doing. But the plan is quite ambitious, and that is to reopen it as a walking and cycling tunnel. So could you just go to the next slide? As I've said, tourism is a really important strategy for Wales in general. It's been highlighted by the Welsh Government, the Tourism Action Plan, as one of the things which can, if you like, help to reinvigorate economies where there are still economic problems. So, for instance, in the Northern Valleys, just recently, a couple of really big firms have closed down. Most recently, a couple of weeks ago, when Everest closed down and 600 jobs were unfortunately lost. It has been highlighted as tourism as being almost like a saviour. And if you look at what's happened in North Wales, and you compare the kind of Blaenau Festiniog, the slate cabins, and the state that was in when all it had was a bit of architectural history and mining history. When Zip World actually came along and put a zip line in, and that spurred on a whole tourism industry in North Wales, which has really catapulted that economy massively. Well, just to say, Zip World have now invested in South Wales. They've got something called Zip World Tower, which is just near Hirwan, so just over the Regos Mountains from where the tunnel would be. And so I very much see them as spearheading a tourism initiative in the area. And so if we use the Rhondda Tunnel not only to do the active travel, but also to be a visitor attraction in its own right, then I think we are, within a good chance of proving its economic viability. And when it comes to tourism, what you want to do is get people to stay overnight. So the more you can build things for people to do, the more likely it is that visitors from Derby and Manchester and Cardiff and Bristol, London, wherever, will come and they'll stay in the region. And if they stay here, they might stay in Cardiff for a night, then they'll go to Northern Valleys. They'll visit the Royal Mint Experience, they'll visit the Penderyn Distillery, and whatever. And I've formed a destination marketing organisation called Visit the Valleys, which is linking all these tourism opportunities and trying to get them singing from the same hymn sheet and build a tourism destination around this. And the tunnel linking as it does the Avon Valley and the Rhondda is a highly significant part of that. Do you want to go to the next slide? I mean, we think, very much aligned with Welsh Government's priorities, really. Outstanding landscapes, vibrant communities, epic adventures. This is what they are positioning Wales to do. So to my mind, what we are offering with the Rhondda Tunnel, I think, ticks all the boxes. And this is significant when it comes to getting those politicians to take it away from being just an architectural thing that'd be nice to have, to something which they are actually using to deliver one of their core values when it comes to their commitment as a government. So, just to remind you where it is, this is the road that comes up the valley from Herbert. It wiggles up here and it goes off the Regos. If you just turn left, once you come out of Herbert, you come to this tiny little village called Blaenau, where amongst other things I've bought the closed down pub called the Hendron Hotel, which I'm hoping to renovate into a community pub. But the tunnel links Blaenau with Blaengrinvi. In order to get from here to here, if you were to travel by car, you'd have to go down here, up this road, and it would take you 45 minutes by car. It's 2 miles long, so you could run it in, how much it takes to run 2 miles? No idea, I don't run. But let's say you could run it in 10 minutes and you could cycle it in 5. So a pretty impressive thing. And the development which is happening in the Avon Valley is happening down this area here. So you can see what a link it would be. And it literally cuts through a mountain. And if you ever visit the area, I haven't got a picture of it, but it's quite sweet that when they closed the tunnel, somebody planted 3 trees on the top of the mountain. And those 3 trees, when you look at them, actually signify the route of the tunnel. So you can see the mountain that it goes through. And it really was, it really is quite extraordinary. So as I said, it is the longest and would be the longest continually open cycling and walking tunnel in the world. There's one in America, as far as we understand, but that's closed for snow for half the year. That's slightly longer, but for half the year it's closed. So for half the year, this is the longest in the world in the Rhondda. I'll go to the next slide. It takes about an hour to walk from end to end, and this is the kind of state that it's in. These are the little alcoves that I was talking about. Obviously, the track was taken up, but there's still a lot of bits and pieces left. There's still lots of track keys, the old teak or whatever they were, the Bernese teak keys that were used to secure the track. To give you an idea of scale, it's about the height of a double-decker bus, and it's about 4 meters wide. So obviously it was designed for a single carriage train, double carriage train, so you get an idea of the kind of size. This, I think, is a very reasonable representation of the state of it. It is quite extraordinary. It doesn't seem to have suffered really from years of being left. It was Victorian design and build, as we all know. They knew what they were doing. So in order to reinstate it, structurally you want to clean it up, but there's no major structural work that you'd have to do. And we have had surveys done to that effect. The vision would be to put obviously relay the walking area and have a cycle and a walking pathway down, and potentially a route for electric train, as in not on a track but on wheels. I think the scope to turn it into a really interesting place to visit is huge. Interestingly enough, just on its own, we believe people visit it. There's a thing called the Bentley Viaduct. I don't know if you've heard of that. It's in Derby. They're very closely linked to where we are. There's a thing called the Friends of Bentley Viaduct, and we went to visit them. And they basically took on a piece of railway architecture, the Bentley Viaduct. And that now has 250,000 visitors every year. It doesn't go anywhere. It just literally is a viaduct in the middle of nowhere. But it's beautiful. Archways and beautiful stonework and da. So we believe that just a tourism destination there, it would be massive. So when you throw in all the benefits of active travel, etc., then I think it's quite extraordinary. There would be an opportunity to engage with social events. The Bath tunnels, which you might have heard of. Yeah. I think we're using that very much as a model of what you can do in terms of engaging with local sports partnerships. They have a run through the Bath tunnel, as you're aware. That I think has generally been regarded as a pretty big success, and it's used actively by people to travel into Bath, but also as a thing for just people to enjoy. And that has music. If you've been there, you'll know that. And we're very much keen to involve local businesses who, believe it or not, we discovered that there's a local business who actually designed a sound and light show for the Bellagio and Fairmont Street in Las Vegas, and they're based in the Rhondda. So we're hoping to engage with them to create some amazing sound and light show. We're also talking to people about putting holographic images, so we could potentially have, you know, the image of a train travelling through, a chance to engage with kids, you know, very much in a modern way, and getting them to engage with history in a way that they can kind of relate to. I mean, that is icing on the cake. You know, we've got to get the thing open, but just to say this isn't just going to be a museum, if you like. It's going to be very much active. Do you want to move on to those slides? Obviously, again, buzzword. Hydroelectric is going to be used to power it, along with solar energy. We've got lots of mountains all around there, lots of waterfalls, so that's the plan there, to keep its cost of running as low as possible, and there'll be electric buggies and electric wheelchairs that people will have access to. Thank you. Next slide. It's very difficult to underestimate, until you've been there, the impact this can have on the local community. Unless you've been to the Northern Valleys recently, it's hard to realise quite how much they need our help. There's so much that this can do to regenerate the local economy, bring some pride back to the Northern Valleys, and that's really, really important. They've had a bit of a battering, but I think it's so much more than just a Northern Valleys project. It's a South Wales project. It's a whole of Wales project. It's a whole of UK project, and I'm just trying my best to get people to recognise that. Move on to the next one. Thanks. It's really, really, when it comes down to engaging with politicians, finding numbers that make it work. And one of the figures that we've just sort of worked out is if you assume there's going to be a certain workforce working in the Avon Valley who wouldn't travel by car, they're wasting effectively 45 minutes each way, an hour and a half of travel every day. If they can cycle it in 20 minutes, 10 minutes there, 10 minutes back, which is a reality, then suddenly you've got an hour a day of productivity of 1,000 people. So that's 1,000 person hours a day. You can start to build an economic case. That's before you look at economic regeneration, before you look at tourism. But it seems to be that you need to present things in a, not just a, wouldn't it be nice to have this beautiful piece of architecture we built, but you need to create an economic model which somebody can put their pen onto the piece of paper they need to sign. And as I said, you know, you do have people come from Bentley Island from all around the world, and I believe that this would be a huge draw to people coming, not only from other parts of Wales, not only from the UK, but also from around the world. To the next slide. Obviously, we're going to be looking at accessibility, making sure that this is a fully accessible project, not only to people with walking disabilities, but also sight impaired and orally impaired as well. So it would be state of the art in terms of inclusivity. To the next one. Again, coming back to the tourism, you know, a vital part of what we did. In the next slide. Sorry, it's all right. We are looking at all sorts of ways of funding what we need. I'm going to come on to talking about what we need now, because hopefully I've established it's a very worthwhile project. We've got some costings coming up in a minute, but just ballpark, we've had some costings done by a very respected team of civil engineers who put the cost of renovating the tunnel as it is, putting in the infrastructure at both ends, digging it out, laying the pathway through, putting all the lights and everything, visitor centre, car parking, at around 15 to 18 million pounds. Okay, that's the big ticket number. But when you look at what its impact would be, I believe that it's a no-brainer when you look at what 80 million pounds is spent on sometimes by governments. As I said, it's currently owned by the government, and getting its ownership transferred is something that we are working very hard on, and we're investigating all sorts of options tirelessly to find a way of regenerating this and reopening this tunnel. Levelling up, you'll be aware of, was something that we felt very strongly. There couldn't be a more powerful case for a project that deserved levelling up funds than this tunnel. It did everything that levelling up was supposed to do. It was sustainable. It reduced carbon emissions. It regenerated disused infrastructure, and it created jobs and provided economic liability. I don't want to get too political here, but there is lots of reasons it would seem why levelling up goes to one place rather than another. It's not necessarily the quality of the project. It's more the diciness of the standing of the local MP. The dicier it is, the more likely it is they're going to get levelling up. It would seem, those are not my views, those are the views of various newspapers. But it doesn't seem to make sense to us. And when we have presented to the likes of David Davis, when we've got Chris Bryant, who's the local MP for the Rhondda, totally supportive. Well, we've got Stephen Kinnock, who is the MP for the other side, Newport Topper, totally supportive. When we've got everybody in the Senate, as far as we can understand, totally supportive. We've got, and Getting is now fully aware of it and is on the face of it, hopefully, very supportive. So, you know, what it takes to get this across the line, I don't know. So what we are doing is we're pursuing, as you would in any circumstance like this, every opportunity we can, from private sector funding to charitable foundations, to family trusts, to whatever it might be, and we're working fairly tirelessly to try and link those groups together. Do you want to mix the next one? This is interesting enough, and I'll just tell you one little story, which is really sweet. This is a headstone, whatever you call it, at the entrance to the tunnel, indicating when it was open. And this was a picture taken just before the tunnel itself was closed. And there's a guy called Steve Mackey. And when he was a child, a young lad, he spent so much time playing illegally in the tunnel. They called him the boy in the tunnel. And when he heard that it was going to be closed, he got his friends, when he's 15, 14 or whatever it was, to dangle him upside down. And he actually carved or wrote on this plaque, "Don't close me," bit of graffiti. 60 years pass. Steve Mackey is now in his 70s, obviously, and he's going through a really, really bad time, and some really personal circumstances. Life's not going at all well, and he went on a walk he'd been on numerous times before. And this particular day, he noticed something in the brambles. Now, when the tunnel was closed, the headstone was lost. Never knew where it went. 60 years on, Steve Mackey, walking on, sees something under a bush, and it turns out it is the headstone. It's still got his graffiti on it. But we still have that headstone. And we will reinstate it. And on that day, Steve Mackey, at a very low point in his life, decided it was a bit of a sign, and he formed the Rhondda Tunnel Society. And he's not very well. And we're really hoping that we can get this tunnel open and he can see it, and we can reinstate that and make sure that he has the opportunity to pull the little cord and bring it on the headstone that we found 60 years on. Let me just go on to the next slide. It's all about the ownership, it's all about getting the money together. It's an ambitious project, as I said, 15 to 18 million. Looking at levelling up and all sorts of things. You want to go to the next slide? But to my mind, there can be no more important project of this type currently going on, certainly in Wales and I think in the UK. It does have a massive impact on the local economy. It does tick all those boxes in terms of sustainability, in terms of heritage, in terms of bringing to life our industrial and our transport past. It promotes an active and healthy lifestyle. It provides a route to work in an area where we believe it's absolutely really important. And it brings back this world-class asset to the Northern Valleys who really need help as much as we can. So I'm proud to be a member of the Rhondda Tunnel Society. I'm proud to be the patron of the Rhondda Tunnel Society. And whatever you can do to help us in our goal, not only of gathering information and the history of the tunnel, but also maybe you just know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody else who might just have 15 million quid lying around in a bank account, nothing to do with it, then please let me know. But that's my story. That's the story of the tunnel as far as I understand it. If you've got any questions, then as long as they're not too technical, I'll be delighted to answer.
Thank you very much for that. Right, I'm sure there's some questions associated with it. I can think of another advantage of it as well. It's going to be far less prone to going over the top of bad methods.
Bad weather, good point.
Yeah.
When in fact that road is closed.
Yeah, it's closed by snow and
That's a very good point.
I had a couple of points. Thank you, Martin, for taking us through that. I mean, having lived and breathed up, sorry, Carl Gilmore, TFW, having worked in and around the valleys now, related to the South Wales Metro for the last 6 years, I've really seen, I know I've got a couple of colleagues in the room here as well who've been involved in that. You can really see some of the deprived communities which are in and around the Northern Valleys. And I really didn't appreciate that quite as much until I worked and been surrounded around that. Doing some work with TechniQuest, who are obviously based in Cardiff very recently, they gave me a horrifying stat that the Northern Valleys have the highest percentage of children claiming free school meals, which is again a very horrid sign of the levels of deprivation and indeed the real need to try and put some money and some revenue back into the Northern Valleys. So recognising colleagues in the room on the call here are very P-way biased, I'm sure you actually see the relevance of this, but actually if you think about the purpose of the railway, not only is it for moving infrastructure and coal, but of course people and communities from a modern day perspective around. Actually, we're moving people around from a regeneration perspective and actually regenerating the connection which the South Wales Metro is doing at the moment. It's allowing people to travel both down from the valleys, but also up to the valleys as well. So for all these things which are being created now in the Northern Valleys, such as Wild Fox, Merthyr, Rhondda Bike, there's so many things going on. Actually, we can really turn lives around for people, not necessarily just for their current children now, but the children's children. You can really see the benefits of that, all the transport links we're creating. The one ask I was going to try and build on is with because we will get funding, I'm sure of it. It'll come in drips and drabs from different places. We've got KGJ Price colleagues in the room. If you happen to be pulling an old asset out, which you think could go next to the visitor centre, which would be relevant to the time span of the tunnel, I'm sure Martin and the colleagues would be really appreciative of that. Howard, I was going to drop you an email at some point. There's got to be some old drawings of something in Waterloo of this. And
I think drawings, original drawings probably still exist. Talk with the archivist, say what they've got. You never know, even if it's drawings of sort of the repairs due to the coal mining subsides.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's the drawings, then it's the links to someone who's then got an old photo or a story or something. But without canvassing all that information, we'll lose it in time. And you've seen that in our families as time moves on, things get cleared out and heritage gets lost. But hopefully by building this centre and regenerating this, it'll help save it and keep all that information together.
One thing I didn't mention was I mentioned this for 13 acres of land at one end, Lincoln end. And we are currently putting in planning permission to reopen one end of the tunnel, not the tunnel itself, but reopen the cutting that leads to the Lincoln end. And the costings of that are significantly smaller, obviously. And so we need about 350,000 and we've got 250,000 of that. So we're only £100,000 short of reopening one end. And I believe that when people see one end opened, suddenly it becomes a bit more real, because at the moment it's just a field with a cow in it. And this mountain with the 3 trees, you have to have quite a lot of imagination. But the moment you see the cutting, the moment you see the entrance and the plaque, I'm hopeful that people will realise that this is a very real thing, not something.
That's interesting in comparison to the Bath scheme as well, because again, that was another one that the tunnels have been completely filled in. And
Yeah,
exactly. But just opening it out and re-establishing it actually started to generate.
There's this is the Rhondda Tunnel logo. I've got my friend as a Cardiff-based artist to do this, and the story behind the dragon is that, as I mentioned, there's only one shoot, what's it called? Shaft, and the tunnel towards the blind windy end. So when the trains used to go through, obviously all the smoke used to come out through this shaft, and it was so far away from the tunnel itself that it was all a bit mysterious. And the local kids, there was a rumour that there was a dragon, Welsh dragon living in the tunnel. So we hope we can release the dragon.
There's one question online from Ed Iris. He says, do we know what the air quality is like?
Yes.
Some tunnels have a natural airflow and some don't. I walked through Totney Tunnel in March, which is circa 6,000 yards. I was surprised on how much the airflow dropped once a mile within the tunnel.
Yeah, so thank you for the question. The members of the society have been monitoring the airflow with proper monitoring equipment for the usual gases across the board, from methane to CFC to whatever they monitor for, and it's great. The air quality has been monitored now for 2 years. It's consistently good. There's more oxygen down there than there is on the surface. It's true. And actually, some of the things that people have suggested, the temperature down there is perfect for storing wine. How much do people pay for storage wine? It's also perfect, apparently, for growing mushrooms. So there could be a nice little sideline in mushroom growing of all varieties for the Rhondda Tunnel Society.
You got one from mushrooms of that.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, so thank you for the question. The air quality is really good.
Good. Any other questions?
Yeah, you've mentioned about transport through the tunnel. Are you going to expand that so that you get a connection down to Treherbert to Swansea, joining in with the infrastructure that's already there? I mean, being
So, of course, the only transport through the tunnel will be bikes. There won't be any public transport through the tunnel.
I thought you said
A small train. Yeah, just a sort of tourist.
tourist
Yeah.
type. Yeah, but taking that on, because that would be a way of transporting people through the tunnel, but then is that only going to be in one direction?
No, both directions, but there is already a very good bus service to within 200 yards of the tunnel entrance. So that's
Right, so it's already there.
Yeah.
So you could travel up from Swansea.
You
by
could,
bus, you
yeah.
could go through the
Well,
tunnel.
you could. The idea will be that actually the nearest station is Treherbert, and Treherbert is the end of the metro line. So you could get the new metro line, 40 minutes, whatever it's going to be, electrified up to Treherbert. It's then about a half a mile walk, maybe not quite that, from Treherbert station to the tunnel entrance. And then the other side is slightly less well connected. There's no trains, certainly not running up to, I don't think up to Blind Greenby, but there's a bus service. So you could theoretically get the train up there You know, in an ideal world, wouldn't it be brilliant if we had a train running through it? And you could do what you could do at one point where you could get the train all the way, instead of having to go all the way back down to the coast, you can go through there and onto Swansea, cutting up that whole arc of that bit of Wales, but that's not feasible.
No, I realise that, but what I was thinking was that if you say take Treherbert, so you get to Treherbert, but your passenger service, your electric diesel bus train thing, is there any way of getting it closer to Treherbert station so it becomes more integrated?
Yeah, I think it could be actually.
Look at yourself.
So the existing railway line, which is the mothballs and tieback, so off the back of Herbert Station where the buffer stop is there, it's all been pretty filled in now, but it used to be a footpath and that's now overgrown, but it goes, as Martin said, as the crow flies, and Howard's not in, it's still existent. It's not far, but it's
250 yards.
yeah, 250 yards. So actually, there's no reason why you couldn't reinstate that.
I want to go through, but I want to get on the train at Sasswell and go up and then get off at Treherbert for 3 minutes. So I'm a lazy bugger, I'm an engineer.
But, you know, I think the idea of putting on a service from Treherbert station is not out of the question. You know, that's something we'll look at. And once we get, you know, build it and they will come, the more people who are coming, the more the opportunity is
in the future.
for a £2 bus or whatever it might be to take to the entrance of the tunnel. I mean, active travel, you know, it's going to be linked in with cycle tracks on either side. So we're hopeful that you know, people will be joining up both ends with a cycle network. I could have just done that. And it probably might have done it. Yeah.
Well, you might.
Anyway, whatever. Yes. So, but I think the more integrated it is, better. And it's almost like, wouldn't it be great if there was you almost like a timetable. And link it.
Yeah.
I think that's a very interesting thought. So you can make it very easy for people to travel from Cardiff to, you know, almost all the way to Swansea and then back to Cardiff, and do a round trip going through the tunnel. And part of that is the journey. Yeah,
Yes.
good idea.
I think that's going to be a big attraction for people, just the cyclists and
Yeah.
There's a lot of people
I think
that don't like bush rides.
no. But I think that's
I'm walking a bit.
no. I think that's a good idea. And make it easy for people.
We've got electric bikes now.
So
I've actually got a very poor sense of balance, actually. I've had a little before.
you're a wreck after this. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm getting a little bit. One, I was just thinking about like property size, so I think about missing rights and all this sort of thing, like liability, floating it off, lights and all this sort of thing. But I think down Stormston where they had some like little solar lights, again, it's a railway tunnel, it's about 1% of the length of this one. The lighting though is going to be quite expensive otherwise. So then there's ways solar lighting it or something that gives you, so you've got plenty of cover for the tunnel, like push back the emissions. But the other question was just on the mic, I was talking to someone else about the old days when they had to watch tourism board and so on. Say, well, Fox, but I haven't heard about that. It's not really about being media car and to a certain extent, I read about the paper and so on. I remember as a speed slow many years ago, I think that's very. But is there something missing, say, after the Welsh Tourism Board, about how much promotion there is about that area and what's going on?
Yeah, that's why I launched Visit the Valleys.
All of this sort of, it just feels like, you know, you see pictures of Netflix or of people, you know, the minister or someone would gather or, you know,
That, you know, yes, yes, absolutely. That's why I launched Visit the Valleys, because I wanted to bring together some focus on the tourism in that area, because we met the people from the Wales Tourism Board, they're not for that anymore, Visit Wales, and that I was surprised at their lack of, what's the word? On the doorstep, there is some of the most beautiful scenery in the world. You know, people travel to New Zealand to see something similar. And I think obviously, like any organisation, especially if it's in the private sector, the public sector, they are probably cash and resources strapped. They need to focus on what they're going to promote. They'll probably promote the beaches, they'll probably promote Anglesey, they'll probably promote Cardiff, they'll probably promote, I don't know what, but on their radar, perhaps has not been the valleys as much as I would certainly like to see. So I formed the Visit the Valleys, which is a destination marketing organisation run by the private sector to work alongside those people who I recognise are cash, time, enthusiasm strapped.
With regards to the tunnel itself, going back onto the transport links, have we thought about narrow gauge train runs?
Yes, there's going to be a narrow gauge railway running around the Rhondda Country Park site, which will also have an amphitheatre and various other things. And the Heritage Centre and the Visitor Centre and disabled car parking. And there is plans to put a narrow gauge railway there. So why couldn't there be a narrow gauge railway running through the tunnel? I don't know. That's a good thought. The nitty gritty of what will be possible in terms of what you put in there, in terms of lanes, in terms of walkers, for cyclists, and another bit of space for an electric sort of train, if you like, for want of a better word. The sort you've probably seen at attractions or at some seaside resorts and things. Then the space for that, if the space for a narrow gauge railway to run, when you say narrow gauge, you're talking about like 7.5 inch, you're talking about slightly bigger than that.
Whichever.
Whatever you could get in. I mean, it would make perfect sense to me, wouldn't that be lovely? So I think when it comes to the planning of the reopening of the tunnel, there'll probably be lots of public consultations and there'll be lots of ideas banding about. And I would very much support and suggest that we explore all things like that. And the costs and the practicalities notwithstanding, I think it's a great idea.
I think one of your biggest problems will probably be ventilation.
Ventilation.
When you start looking at things like that,
Well, if it was steam powered, which we would love, perhaps it would be a problem. If it was electric,
I think electric.
and then you'd have to think about whether it's battery or whether it's pantograph. So yeah, those are things that would be. I mean, that's what I thought about that idea, and I thought it probably wasn't the question to ask. It was going to be too complicated.
let's look. What we will do is look at the best practice that's going on in similar situations around the world, and we will say what is there out there that we could put in that's low energy, can be recharged, whatever it might be, and then consider all those options. But our first challenge is to get the frigging thing open.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, sadly, some's passed away, the car 10, whatever, so the car 10 was on the weekend, wasn't it?
The what?
The car 10, the car 10 cycle.
Oh, right.
Of course, then they start thinking about 5k or 10k. So
Yeah, no, but that's what they do in the back tunnels.
So this leads.
Yeah, I mean, social sporting events would be totally,
Yeah.
absolutely, and linking it with the cycle network, as I said. But having it's 2 miles, it's 2.5k, so 5k thereabout. It's a 5k run, isn't it? And those kind of, and you start involving it. You build it as part of an ultra run, and you've got the mountains all around there. There's people who travel, from all around the world to take part in ultra marathons. You finish up by running through the tunnel. This is great. What we're saying is it's not just an architectural piece that has no use, that just sits there and hasn't got nice bricks. What we're saying is it could be so much more, which is why there's thousands of reasons. And I love your enthusiasm and the idea. It's like, oh my God, we haven't even know anything there. But it's like, oh yeah, we could do this, we do that. Those are the kind of things that it sparks off, isn't it? It's just like, and that's one thing. There's all these other things we can do with it.
Somebody said to me that I don't do the I don't as much of a road perhaps as you don't know. But I can remember somebody saying to me, one of the park runs took you over the old Severn Bridge with the park run.
Well, there you go. Oh, exactly. So, finding things for it to be used for is not the problem, right? Finding the money to reopen it is our biggest challenge at the moment.
Is the mining subsidence now completely finished?
Yeah.
Because it suffered a bit from that over the years, but that's all now steadied out. So.
Yeah, I mean, there's one little section that will probably have to have some remedial work, but I mean, after all this time, it's not going anywhere. And you know, it is in pretty darn good condition.
Was there any of the rail infrastructure left?
No,
Everything was taken out.
Just cable and track keys, hundreds of track keys,
there is occasionally you'll see a little
mile posts.
mile post or a sign, obviously something which was a, I don't know the technical term, but a mini signal. This left.
All the cable hangers are in there pretty much. There's quite a bit of spars, sort of old rails, old bullet rail being frames as temporary spars, and they should of course have been there. Ever since over a small section of it, but other than that, it's stripped.
Because that could have been a nice feature if it was any of the original
Yeah.
timber work, and that you could have made a nice feature of that.
So what we will do is ask people if they've got any or where they know there might be, because as you know, these things have been abandoned, and a bit like Steve found the headstone in a bush. I bet if you start poking about in that area, and when we're digging up, and people get to know about it, they go, I've got something in my back garden, I don't know what it is. Oh, right, what does it look like? It's a bit like a signal. Oh, right. You know, we're hopeful that people will come forward with architectural historical stuff. But down there, there isn't too much left apart from those trackies. Yeah,
Having ridden Bike Park Wales and Avon Park on a mountain bikes, will it be potential for working together there as a linkage?
yeah. So we're talking to Bike Park Wales.
Because they're massively developing up there at the moment as well, aren't they?
Wild Fox.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're talking to the owners of Wild Fox and also the owners of Bike Park Wales. They're both members of Visit the Valleys, and they can see the importance of the tunnel. So we are using them and their expertise as well to try and give the project as much a chance as possible. And my vision would be to have operators of commercial tourism projects such as Wild Fox, such as Bike Park Wales, very much involved in the operation of the tunnel, to give its ongoing economic strength the biggest possibility of being successful.
Because like you stated earlier on, if they come in to visit the tunnel, there needs to be things in to keep them overnight.
Absolutely.
As in Bike Park Wales,
Yeah.
Avon,
Yeah.
there's got to be
Exactly.
things around there.
And the thing that's most exciting is the tunnel links all those things together.
Yeah.
You know, you wouldn't go, you wouldn't not, but you would think twice about driving from Rhondda to the Avon, especially as you quite rightly said in the winter, because it's a 45-minute weekly walking journey on the top of a hill. But you'd go there in a heartbeat if it took you, you know, if there was a little train or some link, and you could understand why you would talk to Wild Fox and say you need to put on transport from the tunnel entrance on your side to bring them to the Wild Fox Resort, a regular shuttle, and that shuttle should also link in with the bus as part of your operational contract with us. So we'll allow you to take people to Wild Fox, but we also want you to have a stop where you stop at the local bus stop. So that those people should absolutely be involved, because as I said, not only does it provide an opportunity for more visitors, but the workers, the workforce, who are going to 6,000 people they reckon are going to be needed to run Wild Fox. So they've got to come from somewhere, and a portion of those will come from the Rhondda side. And that's where, if you can actively make it easier for them to get there, then I think you're doing lots of good in lots of ways.
Have you thought about becoming part of the national cycle network as well?
Yeah, we are talking to Sustrans, and that is an ongoing discussion. Because it would make perfect sense to link it up with an official cycle route,
Yeah.
but they can't put it in yet because they ain't got it open.
Yeah.
So, but when it does, then it's feasible, because they were, you know, heavily involved, obviously, in the Bath tunnel. And and one of the things they focus on is active travel. So they're not just about leisure routes, they want routes that.
Attract funding as well for building connections to it.
Yeah,
things like that.
exactly.
All right, any more question?
Just one for this, how long did it take to create the tunnel in the first place?
How long did it take to build it? I don't know the answer to that question. I think I'd be guessing if I said I should know the answer.
I think it was about 3 years.
I was going to say 3 years.
Yeah.
Quite an extraordinarily short amount of time. When you think about what it is, they must have thrown so many bombs at it when they remind them of blasting through sandstone or whatever it is that's whatever the rock is there. You know, and as I said, it would have been done by blasting, and it would have been done by. Somebody told me that it was line of sight. So you know, if you can place a, you know, I don't know how do you make. I don't know. I don't know.
Just survey the line over the top.
Yeah.
That's how you do it.
How?
So you basically use a theodolite survey. You start where you are, you put up a line of poles, survey over the top.
But then
The other end, and then you do a backside, and you just keep working on that line.
And two strings and a can of oil, basically.
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Can of oil?
Can of oil, yeah, so they don't wobble about. One string very, very slightly thicker than the other, so when you look through them, see one in front of
So
the
you're
other.
sighting ahead, or you're swimming ahead, moving that forward.
Say that again.
You have basically like a plumb bob hanging.
Right.
With two strings.
Yes.
You sighting the strings, this gives you your alignment, so you keep working that forward.
Wow.
That's how you
Well, okay.
Hmm.
You're involved in the pyramids.
It's not infolding, it's a few tons.
Yeah, he start forming.
Yeah, maybe other way.
Okay.
We'll just enter here.
Only a comment to say, we should stay optimistic that it will happen, because I never thought I'd live long enough to see the South Wales Valley electrified in my lifetime, but it's happening. Hey,
I think it's really interesting that the proposition that the Cardiff Valley's work has been social inclusion, isn't it?
Yes.
Well, it was purely a transport project. It was about regenerating the valleys, wasn't it? So this sort of fits into the same sort of theme. Because we've got to make nice places to live, haven't we, up there?
Absolutely.
And that's about having interesting things to do and amenities. A house that you
there's
can
all sorts of nice farmhouse out there.
Hey,
Well, there's a nice farmhouse out there.
So if you have any things you want to get hold of me, obviously get hold of the secretary or whoever, or through Carl. I mean, probably who's the best person to contact you.
Yeah.
Yeah, just please fire out any nuggets of information, any needs, or anything you might have in terms of historical knowledge or people, or just. I'm not expecting you to have an answer today, but some conversation you might be having at some point over the next few months. Never, ever.
collection might be interesting, isn't it? It's got quite.
You never know. Hopefully that's helped to give you an update on what
There's
we're.
another little anecdote about the Clark, isn't there?
Tell me.
It says opened by blank on,
Yes.
because they were so keen to open the bloody thing, they didn't get it
But
finished.
they didn't, and the story on the not having it there was that I understood that they were about to open it, and then whoever it was who paid for it to be open came and didn't like what had been done, or wasn't happy with the
The
safety.
Board of Trade Inspector.
And the Board of Trade Inspector, yes,
Some of the tunnel wasn't lined and he didn't want bare rock.
so that's right, and that's when they ended up doing the, I told you, I'm not professing to be a historian when it comes to stuff, but I have heard that story, and there's certain members of the society who know a lot more than I do. But yes, in fact, the opening was delayed by 6 months while they rapidly did a bit of rejigging work.
Yeah.
There we go.
Is that all backed by the station building?
That is it. That was a replica. That's a replica.
It was replica, was it?
I believe it was, or was it the real thing? Well, anyway, I think it's the real thing. It's the real thing. Yes, it was. That is it. That's the thing that Steve found. So we have that, and it's currently sitting very safely. So
Say no more.
Why it was by the station building, because after someone moved, I think, put it sat by the building there, and then the rock around.
we had a very scary moment when they were redoing Herbert Station, when somebody went down and it wasn't there anymore. And we thought, oh my good golly, has it been dumped in the back of a skip along with a load of building rubble? And then no, there was a site foreman who had to have it removed and put somewhere safe. Thank goodness it was.
Is there gonna be like open days to involve the communities in this?
In terms of what?
For possible funding from the local businesses?
So, gosh, so what we've done so far is we've done an unveiling of a plaque on the Blind Come End, which detailed our vision and the history, and we invited all the local community to that. And then they all came back to the Hen Green Hotel, which I'm about renovating, and we all did a public consultation of why they would want to see the tunnel open and there is going to be a similar unveiling of a plaque on the Blind Grimby end in the middle of June, when all the community at that end will be invited. In terms of approaching local businesses, you know, they are all aware what we need. I think we're going to try and bring money from outside in recognition of the fact that most of the local businesses have got enough on their plate in terms of struggling financially. We're not going cap in hand to them, which we're starting at the top where we think it should be funded by government. And if that doesn't work, then we'll move our way down. But when you think about how much is squandered on projects that, you know, don't actually deliver anything, you can put a very strong case for this, you know, easily returning that 15 million on so many different levels very quickly indeed.
And are you going to try and tie in with GCRE?
Who that is.
Yeah, early conversation. So I've reached out to Simon Jones, just waiting for a bit of a link back there. But yes, there's a full incentives. Of course, they're the other side, only by a few miles just down. They're still waiting for funding for their projects. But I'm sure as soon as they do, there might be connections being made there. Absolutely.
Great. Well, thank you for your time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any more questions? I'll call on Andrew also, thanks.
Martin and Carl, who brought this meeting to my attention and for Martin's presentation. This meeting's been all about promotion of a project to reopen some infrastructure. And by chance, we also heard earlier this year of another project to create new infrastructure at the top of the valleys. So I think there's a link here which I didn't see until about half an hour ago, and that's GCRE are also looking for £15 million to get their project, I think, just to the next stage. Here's £15 million that might just get the thing rolling or get the thing open. It's a long, hard slog. But Wales has been quite successful at getting projects off the ground. We only need to think of the Festiniog Railway.
Welsh Island.
And latterly the Welsh Highland. I remember as a kid at school doing a geography field trip in North Wales and walking through the abandoned tunnels and little tunnels up near Beddgelert, which was the Welsh Highland Railway. I also had just started on the railway and was doing the survey for the bypass in Pontypridd in 1969, and was told to go home at 2 o'clock on Friday afternoon, and thought I would go to the top end of the Rhondda Valley and go through the tunnel and come out of Bridgend and get a train home to Paddington from there. Although it was still timetabled, unfortunately the tunnel had been closed and it was a bus on the wiki. And I never made it. And I don't think I've been over that wibbly wobbly route over the top ever. But never mind, that's another story. Martin, we wish you the best of luck. We wish you all our support. We'll use a plate as we leave. I'm not hopeful though. But great to meet you and to hear of the project. It gets our full support.
Thank you.
And if we can help in any way, probably apart from financial, I'm sure there are many railway colleagues who've got anecdotes and knowing where to get the information which shows the history of the tunnel. And we hope that it has a future reopened. And yes, I should be on a bike from Ammanford and hoping to go through it in the near future. Thanks very much indeed for coming.
It's a pleasure.
And join me in the evening.
For the last meeting? No, I was going to take them as read. Okay, right. Our next meeting will be
Second Monday in September.
September. Yeah, well, we have our new secretary.
I never signed up for that.
It's too late now.
Congratulations.
So anyway, so thank you all for your support during the season. It's good to see a big turnout tonight as well. So I will see you all after the summer break.
You can be thanking Andrew for what he's done in the pub.
Well, he's got to get away yet. Okay, so thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right, okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.